Next thing on our list is to style the form element that we want to include on the contact page. So let's get started by going to our site, and we're going to create a new site. We'll call this one Chapter 9, and we'll point our local site folder, clicking on the folder icon, and let's go to the source files, and we'll go to Chapter 9. And you can just begin with the start files that I've provided for you. It's exactly the same as the last video, so if you've been working up to this point with us, you can continue working on the same file. You don't need to define a new site to do that. However, I am doing it so that we can follow along with just this folder and just this chapter. So now we see Chapter 9 and we have our start pages. I don't need the index page. What I'm going to go for is the contact page, and I'll double click contact, opening it up inside of Dreamweaver. Let's just go to the design view for a second. Now you might remember that this is still based on a template, so the only editable area that I have is this one right here. So what I'm going to do is get rid of some of this information. We don't really need all of this. I think I'll leave, well, no, I think I'll get rid of the last two paragraphs. And don't be fooled, that's a paragraph there too, although it's empty, so I'll just do that. And perhaps I'll just imagine that we had a little bit of text here. Well, maybe I'll leave like 2 lines worth of text. And maybe I'll even put a period right there. All right, so at this point what we want to do is introduce a form right underneath where we are at this point. So right over here I have my cursor. I'm not creating a new paragraph or anything like that, and I want you to go to the insert menu, and in the insert menu, if you're still on common, choose from the drop down list forms. And here, whenever we're working with forms, there's a whole list of long things that we can do here, but whenever we're working with forms, we are going to first and foremost hit the form button right here. And what that does is introduce this little red area in design view, but if you go to the code view, you can see, aha, now we have a form right here. It's got the name form 2 because if you remember, form 1 was the name that we were using on all the other pages inside our footer. So in this area, we now have a form. Well, for this form, I want to now introduce another element, just a simple text field. So here is the text field that we are going to introduce. And when we do, it opens up this area here. Now the ID is again used for either CSS or programming if we had some PHP or something along those lines which was driving this form. It would be useful to have IDs for all of these things. So I'll just say fname, and that's going to stand for first name. So here in the label I will create one that says first name, and I'll put a colon. Now we have a number of options as to what we're going to do with this label. We can attach the label tag using the for attribute, and that's the one that I want to be using. Otherwise we could have wrapped the label tag, so wrap the form element that we're creating inside of a label tag, or no label tag at all. In this particular instance, I want to have the label before the form item. So I'm going to click OK. And as you can see, we've got some very basic structure. It looks pretty plain at the moment, but we're going to be taking care of that in just a second. Also, you'll notice that the alignment is not really working with the rest of it because this is not a paragraph. So I'm going to alleviate that by going into my code view, and you can see here there is the label first with the first name, and there's the input, that box that we just saw there, the text type of input. So if I were to come into my design view and actually select both of those and format that as a paragraph, well, let's see what that's done. That's positioned the paragraph around the input type, but nothing else. So I don't really like that. What I'm going to do instead is to take the opening paragraph that I have here, and I will Command X on a Mac or Control X on a PC, eliminate that. You can move this back with the other ones so that it looks a little bit better visually. And inside there, I'm going to just press return, maybe put a tab, and I'll paste Control V on a PC, Command V on a Mac. I'll paste that into place. Let's get that looking a little neater. And once we refresh it and go into our design view, beautiful. That's exactly what I wanted to see. Now, don't worry about first name and the box being right next to it. We'll put this box underneath it in due time. Right now, the label that's being used, labels are inline, but we'll style that with CSS just a little while. Now, to prepare us for the next paragraph, what I'm going to ask you to do is position your cursor right here, and you could just press return. Now, you might remember that when you do that in Dreamweaver, that automatically creates a paragraph with a non-breaking space inside of it. That's perfect for us because now we can select this paragraph area and put in our second text form. So here's our text field, and I'll click on that. And this time we're going to say LNAME for last name, and the label will be last name. I'll put a colon on that label as well. And we're going to use it using the label tag. Again, that shows up just the way I want it to. The next thing I want to be doing is perhaps giving the option of an email address. So I will do the same thing. I'm going to create a text field. I'm going to go in here and say email. And in the label, I will do the same thing. I'll say email with a colon. Now that's set up. Now, I'm not really crazy about the alignment here, but like I said, once we style this with CSS, it's going to look a whole lot better. At this point, I'm going to ask you to press return yet again. And this time we're going to introduce something else. We will introduce, very simply, a text area. Now, the text area is a little bit different from a text field, whereas a text field is usually only one line and does not allow for a whole lot of flexibility, although we can do some stuff in CSS soon enough. The text area is usually a lot larger, and you'll see it associated with things like perhaps comments. So I'm going to give this the ID comment, and the label, I'm going to capitalize it and I'll say comment. Perhaps comments would be more appropriate. And I'll click OK. So now we've got the same thing happening over here. If we look in our code view, you can see that we have nice, neat paragraphs, and inside each one of those is a label, followed by either an input tag or a text area tag. So those are all good. Next thing we want to be doing is introducing another type of possibilities when we're working with forms, and those will be working with radio buttons and working with checkboxes. So come back in the next video and we will start to do just that.